Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast, brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. And today, this is episode number 31, and I'm with Shawn Gervais of Creative Designs. He's the Chief Technical Officer, according to his Facebook profile, so he can correct me if that's not. And Creative Designs does a ton of stuff in the digital media, digital marketing space, not least of which is OrbisX. So I want you to go into that. But hey, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So what we usually ask is I ask kind of like what your detailing superhero backstory is. That's kind of on this. And not all the guests are in detailing. So if it's not a detailing related story, just give me your normal backstory so we can kind of get to know you. Because one of the advantages of doing these podcasts is if there's people in the industry that serve the industry of detailing, and we're not detailing exclusive, but there are people that we don't always know kind of the background and where you came from and all of that. So If you want to run into that, I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so I do have somewhat of a detailing background. We have a detailing business right now as well.
Cool.
But I didn't come from detailing by any means. Just kind of fell into it. We had a warehouse space. But myself in a nutshell, I actually studied geography at school.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been self-employed since I was 16, always had different business ventures. And then I got into venture capitalism where I was, just investing in companies that were either struggling or in the early phases, took them into something that could, be something larger, and then usually sold them off. And so around the time that, technology was booming and I started to realize that apps were going to be, kind of a direction I should get into, I started developing apps and literally locked myself in a room and taught myself programming so that I could build apps and websites and all kinds of stuff. And so I built some apps for the tourism industry, which fortunately I exited that company just before COVID. So that was some good timing there. But yeah, we were working on some pretty cool stuff with VR. So we actually got drones that scanned. We were living on an island, and then we scanned the entire island, and then we started building apps. Some of them for the government. So if you were traveling, and you had our app on your phone, it would have your passport info and be linked into the police station. So if something happened, you could double tap, and it would send your location as well as your passport info and everything right to the police. So some cool things like that. Sold some things to the governments there. Which worked well, but it's kind of boring working with governments. So I was looking for something more exciting. That's where we got into the tourism side, and then so it was those kinds of varying spectrums. That's a lot different from the detailing world. And so how I fell into detailing was when we came back to Canada. That's where I live now. We essentially had this warehouse that we were renting, and we were just parking cars there for another one of our businesses so our staff could park their vehicles there. I said, geez, we're in a prime location, 4,000 square feet, and there's 4 cars inside this massive space. So we got to do something with it. And then we talked to the landlord, and the unit beside us was for sale, for lease as well. So we took both of them, knocked down the wall, combined the two together, and then we said, well, what do we do now? And so we said, well, we thought of it.
Now you got 4 cars for 8,000 square feet. Is that
exactly? Perfect. Let's go. Terrible decision, but so we were looking at everything from because like I said, I'm not specific to one industry of any kind. It's just more I'm really good at building businesses and systems to grow. So we were looking at things like maybe we should grow lettuce and sell it to the local restaurants and stuff. There's amazing potential in all kinds of different things. So and then
now that's not the lettuce that they grow in Colorado, right? That's I mean.
We would have made a fortune if that's definitely. Yeah, with my luck of even keeping an aloe vera plant alive, I don't think that would have been a good business for me. Bad business, but yes, we were like, what do we do? And my business partner loves cars. Myself, I was never really into cars as much. I was more into tech. But I've grown now more fond of vehicles and things like that. But I think part of the problem was I prefer old cars. and
Hey, you're talking to an old hot rod guy, so I'm right there with you. If it doesn't have and I contend that everybody needs to own a car that has no computer in it, because if and when the apocalypse happens, those are the only
absolutely.
those are the only cars they're gonna run.
Oh, true. Absolutely. All these fancy gadgets they have in them nowadays. It's like, and it's funny. We have this thing in our house. It's Team Zombie. So anytime we meet someone, if we're like, we assess their skill sets. We also assess them as a friend, but we're like, my wife and I are always looking like, okay, apocalypse time. What can they bring to the table? They're either,
There you go.
they're either eating at the table with us or they're on the plate. It's one of the two.
Nice. Well, I'm in Montana. We have multiple carbureted vehicles, and I'm heavily armed. So I feel like I would be pretty beneficial on
Team
the zombie.
Team
Team zombie.
Team Zombie. Exactly. And see, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't think, but I watch a lot of zombie movies, and I'm always just like, if the end of the world happens, and that's something that drives me crazy. Is you watch those movies and you see things that just logistically you're like, oh, okay, well, that's that car's not going to work, or oh, this is not going to happen. But
well, I had to laugh because right around the time that our government has been pushing EV technologies, I watched some movie
as well.
I watched some movie, and literally this family, his first step was to get rid of their Tesla that they had, and they stole a gas powered old car. Like that was, it's like for our survival, the first thing we have to do. And there's all these cars lined up trying to get their vehicles charged and stuff. So anyway, we kind of went off track there. But yeah, those Team Zombie is hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it's important, And that's where, but yeah, my business partner really into cars. Myself, now I love cars, but at the time I was more just like, well, whatever, we could sell anything out of here, And so we said, well, maybe we should do something with cars, but we weren't sure what. And so I kind of had this idea. I guess maybe I was a little bored, but I said, why don't we start a business in an industry that neither of us have ever entered into, and we'll document the entire process. I'll write a quick little book about it, because that was on my bucket list, is write a book.
Yep.
And I'll just give it away to people. And so that way it could help other people, because if someone that doesn't have any of the skills, doesn't have any of the experience, doesn't have any of the knowledge or anything, can start a business, learn all of that stuff as much as they need to run that business, and then hire people and take it into something that's 7 figures or more, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and we had some serious obstacles. Like our landlord didn't want to give us a sign at the road, because he said, well, technically, it's something you got to pay for extra. And I said, well, how much extra for that? And he wanted $3,000 just for the sign at the road. And I was like, you must be out of your mind. He said, do you know how busy that road is? I said, yeah, but we're not taking walk-ins. It's all by appointment, So anyway, I said, you know what? That's fine. Leave it, because it's going to be an obstacle that we can talk about in the book. And it'll be, listen, like without a sign, we were in the back of a plaza. You had to literally drive past dumpsters to get to our shop.
Nice.
I'm not even kidding. And so all the other businesses, they're at the front of the plaza. There's, like Domino's Pizza, a bunch of stuff. And then you have to go around. So my business partner was like, well, how the hell do we make that happen? And I said, don't worry, leave it to me. I'll use some marketing genius. And so I just started filming videos, how to drive there from different directions. And then we would just send that to customers. We're like, you coming from the East End? Watch this video. You coming from the other end? Watch this video. And then, we went further along the process, and we said, well, now we got to automate a lot of this stuff, because it was just me and him. My wife was working with me there for a bit as well. And so our goal was work there for 4 months, learn as much as we could, build a process, and then start hiring people and get them to run it. And now we've grown from, doing 1 or 2 cars a day type of thing. Now we're doing 25 to 30 cars a day, 6 days a week. And we've expanded into, we do PPF, we do ceramic coating, of course, we do wraps, windshield replacements, you name it. Tinting's a big one for us as well. And then detailing, of course, is the main staple, right?
Yeah.
But what we launched we took detailing as kind of our, it's like the milk and eggs at the corner store. Get people in. And then, so we have pretty much consistent prices since day one. On the more lower end compared to some of the other shops that only do detailing in our area. But that's because we cross sell like crazy. And so so anyway, but that led me into building OrbisX, of course, because we looked at software that was out there. We tried 40 plus different platforms, and there were some that were really good at, certain aspects, like, oh, this one's good at the data entry. Oh, this one's good for just, booking appointments. So this one's good for payments. And I said, geez, this is so fragmented. We're going to have 20 or 30 different apps to do this, and none of them have artificial intelligence built in to any degree, and none of them have any kind of process for automating growth in terms of marketing tools. So I said, geez, okay, well, I've been running a marketing company for 15 years now, and we have clients like, Toyota. We do a lot of their campaigns, things like that. So I said, let me take all the principles I've learned for the last 15 years and just roll it into some software. And so that's what we did. And that's how we grew so fast and documented the whole process in the book. So I can shoot a link to the PDF.
Yeah. Give me we'll put that in the show notes and we'll kind of link to where that is. But that's, I need to, you and I need to team up in the coaching and online courses space, because you just described the biggest problem that I have. I have literally between Shopify, Kajabi,
everything,
drip, all, I have like 7 apps in order just because I do coaching and online courses, but I sell retail, I sell supplements, all of that stuff. And this is one of my brands, but it sucks because like in most areas, just like you experienced, there's no way to do, because no one does everything 100% typically.
100%. Yeah.
And so being able to find something that does everything you want it to do is definitely a challenge. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Plus it gets pricey when you start adding this tool.
It's like $200 a month, $80 a month, $90. It's like I'm at $1,000 a month before I even sell anything, right? Like
exactly. Exactly. And it's like, geez, why is your program so expensive? No, it's not expensive. It's a great investment on its own. But also I have to factor in, oh, you like all those, communications you've been getting? You like this, that? Well, those things cost money to send out, right?
Yeah, I do. I want to talk more about OrbisX in a bit, but I'm intrigued because I'm learning you. I don't know if we've ever met in person. We kind of got to be Facebook friends. No. And, but I'm always intrigued because there's this thing that I talk a lot about where there are a lot of people that describe themselves as entrepreneurs, right? And
thrown around a lot.
90% of them are wrong.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right.
and there's nothing wrong with being, if you're not an entrepreneur, you're a small business owner. Oftentimes is a small to medium business owner, which that niche is perfectly fine. Like you defining yourself in that way is no problem. But what I find very intriguing about you, because you seem to be similar in my case, I currently have 9 brands. I just killed a couple. I'm in 6 or 7 different industries, and those just like you. So I would define myself as an entrepreneur, and my wife would define myself as a crazy person that is trying to kill her with stress. But I see you in that way. So I had this discussion yesterday and actually this morning where we were talking about there are certain people out there that can literally take any business, right? It doesn't really matter what the business is. It's take this, and I think that your experiment here with the detailing shop is a perfect example of that. So talk to me about like your mindset, your skill set, what you've learned over time that would equate to, because I always complain, detailing as an industry, they suck at the business part of it for the most part.
That is something I've seen quite a bit. And I, as like yourself, I'm in a lot of industries now, and I've been in a lot of industries as well. And I can say that I've never quite come across the quantity of those that it's. I'd say the closest one was because we also work with a lot of cleaning companies, residential, commercial cleaning, and there's a lot in that space. The only difference is I'd say that they don't self-proclaim to be entrepreneurs a lot in that. They're just like, oh yeah, I have a cleaning company, something like that. And they're like, it's more but I've seen it a lot in the detailing industry where it's like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm this, that, and it's, and there's nothing wrong, like you say, with being on either end of the spectrum. But I think part of your growth gets limited by when you've told yourself you kind of are something that you're not, because you gave yourself a title. And so recognizing your weaknesses, I'd say, is more important, because then you can hire the right people to get involved in that. Like myself, I'm good at my personal finances. I suck at business finances with certain things, because when it comes to hiring, like I was kicked off of hiring at our shop because I had no idea what, minimum wage was exactly and how far that could go or could not go. But I always looked at things and I was like, man, you got to pay people like a lot better than this, And so I'd interview someone. I'm like, yeah, we could start you out at, $50 an hour or something like that. And my business partner's job would hit the floor.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is, at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS. Yeah.
Well, I'm like, no, that's what it takes for the average person to live, right? He's like,
Yeah.
no. So I recognize, okay, not my strong suit, so passed it off to him. But then at the same time, my business partner is not, Nick, I love you, but he's not the greatest at morale building. And that's something that I excel at. So I handle that kind of thing. And so we are both entrepreneurs. He's got 6 businesses. I've got 7. And we have 2 that overlap. Everything else we do separate. But we're definitely entrepreneurs. But even within that, we do have some limitations. But I'd say the biggest thing for me is, you're absolutely right. Any business, I could walk into it and I'd be able to identify, critical elements that if we just tweak those things would be night and day different in a positive direction. And it's something that part of it, I think maybe you're born with. A big part of it you can learn as well, but you have to, it's almost like having that eye for it. It just comes to me naturally. And so it may be something that someone could learn, but if it doesn't hit you instantly, the problem is people are going to overthink things. And when you think about things, sometimes it just leads to more thinking, and there's no action, there's no doing. Whereas me, I'm not scared to fail at all, because for me, failure is part of the process. It's the price of admission, right?
Yep.
That's what you pay for success. And so, but one thing I learned over the years is that knowing I'm an entrepreneur and how I think is that I let go of the control aspect that I used to have. And that's a big difference I see between someone that's, self-employed and someone that's an entrepreneur. Is that self-employed, typically they want that control. They want to, I have to manage everything. Nobody does it like me. My business partner, Nick, once again, love you, buddy, but he still cleans the office at the end of the day. We have a car dealership and he'll mop the floors. I'm like, no crew that does that, right? He says, yeah, but they don't do the front entrance like I like it. And I said, so talk to them about it. He's like, they don't like talking to me. And I said, so talk to yourself about how you talk to people. Work on it. But yeah, he's just, so he wants that control. Whereas myself, I've realized that hire the right people. And sometimes the right person is going to be riddled with flaws, but they're not there to do a perfect job right away. They're there to learn how you need perfection done, but it's a process, and that's going to come with time. So understanding to make mistakes, you shadow them, you have someone else that's more senior shadow them, so on and so forth. But hire fast, and try and find people that smile during an interview. That's a big trick right there.
Yeah, you want people that are a little bit more happy. It's funny because I actually have a shirt that says failure is always an option, but do it anyway. Do it anyway. Like I made the assumption a long time ago that almost everything I do is going to be a failure. So if I go into it with that, my expectations are low, and I can,
any little win is a major win. It's a home run.
That's right. I do this thing at night called celebrating the little things, kind of thing. So at the end, so I give myself something the next day that I can do that I know is achievable. And then at the end of that day, I can look back and say, hey, that's a win, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got those 2 texts sent off to somebody I've been avoiding, or, whatever those things happen to be. But I feel like that you probably, you learned that teamwork issue or strategy earlier than I did. I'm 50. I've been self-employed and an entrepreneur for 25 years, and I'm just now getting over myself. So
that's I gotta say, you don't look 50. What kind of water do they have in Montana?
Thanks. It's all it's the lighting. You see me, I look like the crypt keeper in person. So it's
fair enough.
Yeah, but that team aspect is something that you have to have. I ended up going through. I'm working with a business coach now, which I highly recommend. Because I do business coaching, which I'm sure that you do some of that too with your book and all that. But
100%.
It makes sense to have there's always somebody that knows more than you and has a better expertise. And so he went through, he's like, let me see all the stuff you do across all your brands. And then he was like, holy crap, How do you not have a team of like 4 people? And he's like, this is why you're stagnating in your growth. And like just being able to go back and look at all that. And so now I just hired 3 people. So actually 4. And so with my video editor person. And so then I'm like, okay, now I have to spend all my time figuring out how to tell them what to do.
Yeah, exactly. But which is a great feeling, and it has exponential rewards, which is great, because the longer they're with you, it's kind of like they come in as a knife, and the longer every day it gets a little more sharp and a little more sharp and a little more sharp. Next thing you know, you're just running around like Fruit Ninja, and you're just slicing up everything. And that's the key component, but. It did take me a while to learn that, and I was kind of thrust into it, to be honest, because I did have some businesses before that where I had teams, and I thought I had great teams, and I thought I was a great leader. Then that's when I realized, okay, I'm coaching others, but I wasn't getting coached. And I said, okay, think of every football team you like, every soccer team, every baseball team. They all have a coach.
Right.
These are amazing players that have put in thousands of hours and become experts, and yet they still need a coach, a leader. Right. And so you look at that and you're like, okay, so what makes me think I'm different, right? So I started getting coaching. And then when we first moved to the Caribbean, I literally just said, you know what? I think we're going to just move our office and just go to the Caribbean. It was on my bucket list. And so we picked an island. And then I said, all right, perfect. Let me put out a Facebook post in that country. And let me see if I could get some people and organize a team. I thought I'd have maybe, 20, 30 resumes. It was a brand new company down there no one had heard of. 250 plus people applied.
Holy cow.
Yep. Never been in the country before. And I just packed up my...
Which island is it?
So we went to Grenada. So it's near Venezuela. And we just packed up.
I'm addicted to Caribbean life. I love the Caribbean, and I've been wanting to buy real estate. I do real estate too. I've been wanting to buy real estate in the Caribbean. And so I'm like... all these different islands that I've never heard of. I'm like, holy crap, that's expensive.
Well, you know what? It can be. When we're done this, it all depends on how you approach it. When we're done this, I'll put you in touch with my old business partner down there that we had the tech company. And because he's getting into building villas down there on demand. And there's some pretty rewarding, I'll say, tax things down there as well.
Dude, I try to pay as few taxes as I possibly can.
Absolutely. Let's just say that the government likes to play ball. It's just
right. Nice.
But yeah, and they've had the same government for 60 years. So
wow.
It's not one of those every 4 or 8 years you got to change it out. Nope. If they
that's like the Caribbean equivalent of the Good Old Boys Club is what we call it in the United States.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll put you in touch with him. His name's Corey, but yeah, you'll get some stuff sorted. But yeah, so I flew down there, and I interviewed a ton of people for a week. We rented out this restaurant right on the beach, and we just interviewed person after person after person after person. And next thing you know, we had 32 employees, and we were building websites at the time and doing SEO and stuff like that for North American companies, but we were paying, Eastern Caribbean dollars. So it was a lot better for us. It was very fruitful. But I learned a lot working. If I wasn't thrust into that environment, I don't think I would have understood all of the hardships that truly come with building a team, because the culture was different. The language was different. Just everything. People would call in sick. I can't come in today. Not sick, but why can't you come in? Oh, it's raining outside. I'm like, okay, so I'll see you in 20 minutes. And they're like, no, we don't go to work when it's raining. That's ridiculous.
You do know that you do know you sit at a computer all day for your job, right? Like
exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's a very easy thing to do indoors. But yeah, so it was all these different things, and then navigating the political system down there, legal system, hiring, everything. It was a lot to do in a very short period of time. And what a big change for me is when I started getting coached and I started reading more on how to be a better leader. And so that's where it made hiring a team. It was essential as breathing. It was the only option, and hiring the right people and getting that going. Now, the funny part about that with OrbisX, I do have some support staff, but it's been just me running the entire company. And so some people ask me that, and they're like, why on earth, for someone that loves teams, builds teams, why wouldn't you just build a team? And there's a few reasons for that. But the biggest one is that OrbisX for me is a fun project. It's not about money at all for me, because I've retired twice. And my wife always says, you keep retiring and you keep going back to work. Just know that you're going to work forever. And I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah, retirement. People always ask me that. So, well, are you saving for retirement? Are you doing this for retirement? I'm like, I'm never retiring. Like
Yeah.
what retirement means to me, the word is ridiculous anyway. But like, why would I just put everything off to wait until some future date?
Yeah.
Retirement, quote unquote, would be like selling a bunch of my businesses and literally just being able to do stuff like you're doing, right? Like that's
Yeah.
you do OrbisX. That's your fun project. It brings in some revenue, but it's something you super enjoy doing.
Exactly. Like I wake up every day and I'm just excited. Like even for like problems, if someone's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, my text messages aren't going out," I'm like, "Let's get to work."
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. Like I'm there for the fight. I'm there for the that keeps me alive. And my
Mm-hmm.
father was a high school teacher, and he's 67 or 68 this year, I think, and he's the youngest person I know. I swear to God. And I said, "Dad, like, what?"
That's the way to do
I
it.
said, "What's the trick?" Like he retired early. He retired at 55 to make room for other teachers to, jump into the
Mm-hmm.
workforce, which I thought was commendable. And then he kind of tooled around for 2 years, did some fishing, this and that. And then he started a construction company. No experience.
Really?
I helped him
Well,
along.
at least it wasn't a restaurant, right? Like so many
Yeah,
people
that's
want to
true. Yeah, he'd just be the old guy in the corner with making spaghetti or something.
do.
And so I helped him, coached him along with it because it was his first time running a business of any kind. And even though it was just him and this other guy, and they were both older, and so they called it old school builders, and they were just running it. I said, "Listen, I could help you take this to like something massive, and then you don't even have to do the work." And he said, "No, no, no." He says, "I want to do the work." He said, "That's why I'm doing this. I got to do something." So he's now come to the realization that as he's getting older, like this, he's been running it now since he was 55. That's like quite a jump
Yeah.
until 68. So
Yeah.
now he's realizing that, and he's started hiring some people. So I've been coaching him through that, but he still goes to work and does the work. And I said, "Dad, what's the trick to staying young?" And he says, "Surround yourself with young people." And I said, "Okay, well, I can't just hang around little kids all day. So what do you mean?" And he says, "No." He says, "Young at heart too." He says, "Some people that have the passion, people that have the drive." He says, "Their energy is going to pump into you on a daily basis." And that's what I get from, working with everyone at OrbisX. And fortunately, I've been able to step away from my shop. So I just go in there here and there, check in on things. I help out with the marketing, but I've been able to hire the right team there. It runs itself. That to me was an important thing because I didn't want to be a detailer. That wasn't my goal. It was an investment for me. And so, boom, it's just running, and someday we'll sell it and we'll go on to the next thing, and then so on and so forth. The ball keeps rolling. But I found that, yeah, surrounding yourself with those people helped a lot. And when I was in the Caribbean, that's where I learned, get the right mentorship and everything. And you had asked me earlier, someone I kind of look up to as a mentor or someone that I learned from. I'd have to say it's this guy, Chris Munven. Sorry, don't want to get his name wrong. He's actually an insurance broker, and he messaged me one day and said, "Hey, I know you're in the Caribbean. Which island is it good for diving? I'm coming down with a bunch of these guys, and they work for high up there in they're the insurance underwriters for other insurance companies. And so he said, we're coming up, whole corporate crew, we're all going diving.
Well, if there's nothing more fun than hanging out with a bunch of underwriters, I can't imagine.
What a weekend! Yes. I can just see it now. All of them, the way that paper feels.
That's right. That's right.
I think it's great for contracts. But yeah, so he flew down, and anyway, I set them up because at the time we had a company called I'm Local, and basically it helped people organize their travel and tourism stuff when they're abroad with locals. So we had little boxes in the hotel rooms, and you could talk to it and say, "Hey, tomorrow I want to go, river tubing, and I want to have a picnic on the beach or whatever it is." And that would go to our call center. They would organize everything with the locals, and then they would message back and they would say, "This is the price," and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty cool system. Anyway, they had such a good trip. He said, "Listen, I don't share this with a lot of people." He says, "But I'm going to give you this course that we all have to take at this upper level, and it helps you read a 400-page book in 30 minutes.
Wow.
So I was hella intrigued, obviously, because I said, well, okay, you have X amount of hours in a day, and if you can now compress the time it takes to learn things rapidly, yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
So
really.
It took 4 hours start to finish. It's this video thing that literally reprograms your brain. And now I can read books like lightning fast, and it's not skimming. You don't skip things. It's amazing. So anyway, that helped a lot in terms of me getting more excited to read and consume knowledge. And that's where I said, let me just make this my mission. And that's where now every company I've set up has been intentional in the way that it's done. And I find the growth is just like OrbisX. We started it 2020 February. We launched only an Android app, didn't even have anything else, and it was only my shop using it. And that was
that's what we call a case study, you know.
Exactly. And then now we're in 20 countries, and it's like, how the hell did that happen overnight with just me and no advertising money spent into it, no nothing? Most of my companies I bootstrap from the ground up because for me, that's the biggest, proving factor if it's going to be successful or not. Like if people don't want it when you've got it, what's more money going to do? You're just pouring, gasoline on, not even a fire.
Yeah, wet logs, right? You pour, trying to light a wet log, right?
Exactly. But yeah, a lot of my companies work well together too, which helped, and that was done intentionally as well. So like we have a printing company called Printing Shark, and so we print everything from envelopes, banners to NFC cards, you name it. We print it all. And so we do a lot of that work for, companies like Walmart, Toyota, things like that through my other company, Creative Designs. But we also do all the printing for my existing business. And then it becomes easy where it's like, oh, we've got this awesome app for detailers, OrbisX. And wouldn't it be nice if instead of every gift card being digital, why don't we introduce the hardware side of it as well? So we made a little app that you can program your own NFC cards, and then customers can now buy physical gift cards, and then you can tap to redeem them.
Oh, simple, nice.
Right? And so that's something that, the other CRMs didn't have, which was great for our members. But more importantly, it's something that our members didn't have, because that's huge in your business. As you know, if that instantaneous purchase, those impulse buys, that's key. If you're like, oh yeah, no one's gonna, oh, do you have a link where I can buy gift cards? Like it's a lot more rare. But if they're checking out and they see it on the counter right there, gift cards, and how much are those? Whatever amount you want. It's the most beautiful thing ever. They pay you, you program it. Anyway, so little things like this, but it's all because we have, I have the printing equipment, we have the company to do that. And so now we can just merge the two together. And then anytime I need something printed for, OrbisX, like this wonderful banner behind me, things like that, my own company's doing it. So I reduce my costs, but also it's another revenue stream as well. So it's like, it costs me nothing, and it's actually making money. So
and we won't tell the Canadian government, but there may or may not be tax benefits to purchasing from individual companies from yourself, right? Like that's
100%, and there definitely are, especially when they're headquartered in the Caribbean still.
Oh, nice, yeah.
See?
Yeah,
very rewarding.
Yeah, well, we'll have that offline, because I don't want the IRS or the Canadian government coming after either of us, right?
100%. Yeah, this is a hypothetical conversation. It does not take place in real life.
That's right. So I'm curious, because with my stuff, depending on what the industry is, I kind of have a very similar strategy or process that I follow. As I develop new brands, as I develop new businesses. Do you do the same thing?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's it literally becomes a formula. It's like a recipe. For me, it's kind of like cooking. So what doesn't matter if I'm cooking steak or I'm cooking something else. I tend to use the same spices that I know work well. And I tend to use the same kind of quantities and things like that, same temperature. I'm using the same oven. So it's the same kind of thing for me with businesses. And the biggest thing with business, I don't know why a lot of people get it very, they make it more complex in their head. It's just all business is sales. That's all it is. Other than that, it's a hobby, it's a favor, it's helping out a friend. The minute there's a transaction, it's now business. And so once you understand that, it's like, okay, so then what is sales? And then once you understand that sales ultimately is just the transference of feeling from one person to another, that I'm giving you the feeling that this is going to be rewarding, or it's going to have value, or it's going to solve your problem, or something like that. You're now in the solutions business, basically. And once you understand that, it's just, okay, so what's the solution here? What are the ingredients that make up that solution? The better you can display those to prospects, the more successful the business is going to be, right? And then now you just have to hire other people, teach them how to duplicate that recipe. And so that's all it is. It's kind of like the McDonald's thing where, the guy who originally bought it from those two brothers, he was selling
Ray
That was
Croft. Ray Croft, I think is his name. Yeah.
yeah, it was like slushies or something. He was selling those machines, and he
Yep.
went in there, and they had like the best fries, and everyone loved it. And so he tried to replicate it, instantly, just everywhere once he bought it, and it wasn't really taking off, and he
Mm.
couldn't figure out why. And then he realized it was they're growing their own potatoes out back, and it's getting the sea salt and all kinds of stuff from the air, and so it was just the potatoes were different. But once he
Yeah.
figured out that recipe, that formula, it became really easy to just duplicate it everywhere. And whether you do, some people think duplication or scaling means multiple locations. Sometimes it's just within your same location, but just growing into, other vertical markets, or it's just even getting more of the same customers to the same place. So it's like you have a restaurant, there's 20 tables, but you also have all the tables that are in the houses around you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way you
Yeah.
can scale just by offering takeout, for example, so yeah, I do follow the same recipe in a
No, I mean, I think that's great. I think, different. How do we put that in context for like your single operator, right? Like we talk about building teams, we talk about growth, and I had a conversation. I was at a training over the weekend in South Carolina, and I had several conversations that basically was like, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to grow, and my last thing is, well, do you have to do all those things? And what do you, how do you see your growth? And like, well, I don't want to grow. I'm like, you just told me you wanted to grow.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to grow in one way, you have to grow in the other. But I'm curious what you tell single operators, because I try to give all of them different advice on, well, if you, just like you said, let's look at different verticals. How do you do this? Is there anybody in your world that could come in and help with, different verticals or whatever, so that you don't have, build this in a different way. But it's difficult for single operators to understand what that process can look like.
100%. And the best way I've described it to some people before, because it's a question I get as well, because OrbisX primarily has, I'd say like the medium to larger operations using it, but then we do have a lot of guys that are, solopreneurs, things like that as well. And most of the questions around business fundamentals come from that segment, which is fine, and that's great. They're asking questions.
Yeah.
So my answer to them is always, okay, why did you get into detail? And they say, well, I love working on cars. I love seeing their face and stuff. I said, okay, so you have to understand something, is that, let's say you don't want to grow, because I've got that before. Well, I don't want to grow. I don't want to take on more cars. So let's say your version of growth is just doing more of what you're doing, right? Doing more of what you enjoy doing. But now imagine that because you're not a bookkeeper and you're not very good at keeping books, something happens and the government says, you actually owe us, $40,000 because we're just estimating on how much tax you didn't pay. Yep. And then they shut down your business. Now you can't do what you wanted to do because you weren't taking care of the books. So that's an area where you need someone to manage the books for you so that you can do more of what you want to do. Because I guarantee you, if you enjoy the detailing part, you probably don't get amped up to, hey, $45 for a fuel purchase. And, you're not revved up for that. So, so that's one way that you can grow, because growth doesn't always have to mean more, dollars necessarily. Growth sometimes is just a more solid company that's going to be around a lot longer. So it's more dollars in the sense of you might make the exact same every year, but maybe it'll keep pace with inflation, but your longevity is going to be there. But then other ways are, I do want to grow more, but I don't want to hire someone and then I have to trust them to do this and that. Trust me, if you take a look at your business, you're going to find 10 areas where you're doing things you don't like doing, or things that could be done better by someone else. So now you can be the second employee, because you'll be able to double your workload, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, OrbisX, pet project for me, I love it. Some of the parts I don't like are, I'm locked out of my account. Can you help me reset my password? I don't get jazzed up for that. Yeah. So I have support staff now that I took a look myself and I said, okay, what parts do I love about OrbisX and what parts do I want to delegate to, other places? And that's one of them. The same thing, our accounting. I don't do the accounting because I don't want to spend my time doing that. I want to spend my time on a keyboard coding or answering fun questions or helping someone with their business with coaching, stuff like that. So there always has to be growth of some kind, or else if things just stay the same, in my opinion, it's not a business. Things
Right.
have to change and evolve. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go from, well, you know, I have to increase my profits by 30% every month or something. That doesn't necessarily, you know, equate to more happiness, for example. So sometimes growth is just you being a better owner operator. Maybe you aren't responding to all of those 5-star reviews, or maybe you're responding to the 1-star reviews really poorly. So
Yeah.
sometimes personal growth as well, right? And that
Right.
helps the business grow because it gets better. So
Yeah, there's nothing necessarily wrong, and we've said this on the podcast with different guests too. Like if you're happy making, I don't know, 10 grand a month or whatever, and that pays for all your bills, you get to do your vacations, your family's happy, you put some stuff in savings, investments, and all that. That's great. Like you don't
yeah.
have to be. Not everybody needs to be $100,000 a month shop, right?
Mhm.
So, but I love your
More money, more problems.
yeah, dude. Yeah, bigger for sure. Those the checks get bigger, and the checks in get bigger, and then the checks out get even bigger than that. Usually,
Exactly.
is how that works.
It's
But
all right.
yeah, but I love that idea of being able to like really divvy up, kind of the things that you don't like to do. My business coach, I actually had to take. So I did all those tasks I referenced from before. There was like 229 of them, which is absolutely ridiculous. But he had me do 3 columns. He was like, things you love doing, things that you're doing and probably shouldn't be doing, but you just do it because you can, and then the F that column. So like, and then like anything in the F, so my goal is, first of all, I don't do anything in the F that column. I need to figure out a way to delegate the things in the middle column. And so because of those 2 columns, then that lets me do all the stuff on the first column, which is the things that I love doing. So, and every business has that. And that you can go through, and even a single operator, there are virtual assistants. There are different ways to do it. I have a couple of virtual assistants, and they're super cheap and way better at pretty much anything that I do. So that's
true. Yeah, it's true. Well, it's funny because the biggest thing I've heard from solo guys is that they don't have time to talk to customers.
Mm-hmm.
They're busy doing the work, right?
So that's literally your whole job, is to talk to customers, like you said, and to sell them services.
Exactly. And that's where, if you don't have that, the best thing you can do is what I like to call, sorry, we missed you. Any business that I start, the first thing that you don't have is support and someone to talk to customers right away, right? Because you're busy building the business, getting the letterheads or the business cards printed or whatever. You're busy doing all that, but you need to be selling from day one. The minute you have the idea, if you have the product or service ready to go, day one, that needs to start. You're selling it, and then it's just going to get better over time, because that will guide your decisions for building the business better down the road. So the sorry we missed you is essentially find yourself someone instantly, as soon as possible. It could be maybe it's a part-time, it's a single mom working at home that's like, I just need something a couple hours a day or something, and so she's able to get her stuff done. And I mentioned this example specifically because I've done this. Found something. You just go on Kijiji and stuff, and you find someone that they can be available for the whole day, but they don't necessarily have to be on the whole day. So call comes in, they take the call, and the sorry we missed you part is the magic. It's because they don't know everything, and you don't have time to train them on everything. But what they do is they say, yeah, hi, so such and such business. How can we help you? Oh, sure. You're looking to get that? No problem. You know what? That's best handled by our technicians. I'm going to take down your info. They're going to call you back right away. I'm going to go interrupt what they're doing so they can give you a call, right? That's going to buy you 15 to 20 minutes at least. You know what I mean? And so you can compile these now, and then you get 3 sorry we missed yous all at the same time. Take a minute, you call all 3 of them, and then you go back to work. So it's less disruption throughout your day versus if you were to get interrupted every 10 minutes. It's really difficult to finish a task. But if you focus for 45 minutes and then you spend 15 making calls, you're so much more productive. So there's little kind of tweaks and stuff you can do, but definitely the F that column, that needs to go.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm slowly moving more into the F that column from the middle column. So that's definitely something to do. But that's a really cool strategy, because it lets you batch things. I can't remember, there was a book I read probably early 2000s. Like I said, I'm old, but it was like the Mythical Man Month, I think, is the name of this book. But it talks specifically, and it was in the context, I was in the tech sector at that time. This is early .com days. Um,
Nice.
but it talks specifically about the tech sector and about every time you interrupt someone doing programming, it took
Yeah.
them X number of minutes to get back on track. So they
Yeah.
were, some of these companies were losing 70% of their day because they kept getting interrupted.
Minor interruptions, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it's same thing. Like I usually do my coding at home, and my wife knows I got the headphones in, and unless the house is on fire, and even then, just cover me with a fireproof blanket and just go start fresh.
Yeah.
But it's all those micro interruptions, and that's where a lot of people, they ask me, they say, how do you get so much done? And you're still handling support sometimes, and you're talking to members, posting in their groups, and running other companies. And it's because I break my day up very, very precisely. And that's part of my formula, is that I do certain things at certain times. And a lot of people will say, oh, good strategy is I only check my emails at 4 p.m. That to me is ridiculous, because you're going to miss out on a lot of sales.
Yeah. Right.
So what I do is I break up every hour into as if it was a day. So if you're going to check your emails at 4 p.m., instead pretend it's an hour, and now break that up as if it's your day, and say, you know what, I'm going to check all my emails at 4:45.
Yeah.
Or sorry, at the 45-minute mark.
Yeah. 45-minute mark. Right.
Yeah. And then you just boom, boom, boom. You break your day up like that, and you'll be surprised how fast. Like, I can burn through 10 emails in a matter of 3 minutes.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is, at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation, or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS.
But if I get them sporadically and I'm checking them often, that 3 minutes is now expanded into 45 minutes. But similarly, if I wait till the end of the day, I'm going to miss out on some sales. I might not be in the same mood. I might, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just forget because something happens, and now I went into the next day. So
Right.
that's where I break my days up like that, because it just makes a lot more sense. But I'm going to check that book out. That's interesting, though. But yeah,
I mean, it's an old school book, and I don't even know if that's, I don't know if the concepts are still there. It's like Raving Fans and Gung Ho and all these.
Okay,
I still have all those old early 2000 business books. And you were talking about solution. I don't know if you remember. Well, you're younger than me, but solution selling is what they called it. They actually taught that in sales training.
Yeah.
They taught solution selling, which I talk about to all these guys a lot, which is, you have to provide you're not selling them a service. You're selling them a solution to whatever pain point and to whatever problem that they have. So your whole job in sales is to figure out what those are and then align your solution. And that's how you sell it.
And then your advertising is just either describing their problem or creating the problem.
Right.
Because sometimes people don't know they had a problem. Like I always reference, gutter cleaning. First time home buyer, they were previously renting. They didn't clean their gutters.
Right.
Buy a home. So you have to create that problem for them, because they're not going to seek it out on their own necessarily. So fall comes, you create the problem. You say, hey, time to clean those gutters.
Yeah.
And so things like that. So it's
and you got pictures of the interior wall fully covered, streaming down with water and backed up in your basement. I mean, like, you got to show them that this is the problem. If you're doing detailing and you're selling these pre-winter protection packages, right? You show spring cars with damage. You show interiors that look terrible. All of that stuff. So you definitely have to create that mental image for people.
Absolutely. And then boom, hit them with the solution. And that's what you're in the business of. You're absolutely right. And that's a big thing I think a lot of them miss out on, is that the investment in someone like a virtual assistant or something like that. It's like, okay, yes, it's a little money out today, but think about how much more time you can now sell more customers. And you'd be amazed, doing what you're really good at, you're going to triple that investment easily, And so, like, when we built OrbisX, I looked at our effort column and I said, okay, those are things that we need to get computers to do as much as possible, because even my staff probably won't want to do them. And then I looked at the middle column, and it was things that they shouldn't be doing, because, like, my staff, sometimes they would forget to, send a customer a follow-up for a review request, things like that. So it's like, okay, let's just automate that whole process. And then, so you look at all these things, and then you find there's software out there that can handle almost any problem that you're going to come across. Even copywriting, solo guys, oh, I don't know how to write my ads. Used to be you had to hire a big fancy company, and still that's what I recommend. However, if you don't, have the budget for that right away, use something like ChatGPT. You live in an age where, my goodness, you could it's not going to be perfect. Don't just take it from a robot and post it.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying it's going to give you some inspiration, a guideline, something like that, But yeah, there's tools out there that you can definitely automate a lot of your life.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT just as a guideline and as a brainstorming tool. I'll say, hey, give me the top 10 things people worry about with their cars in the winter or whatever. Going back to our example, and it'll spit out a list. And if you don't like the list, tell it to repeat it and do it again. Yeah, exactly. And then you have two lists that are like, maybe you have 18 things and you can whittle that down. But yeah, definitely using those tools. I use my VA for a lot of administrative stuff. She sends a crap ton of email for me, both follow up and pre-sale and all that stuff. I have her gather data. Like I need to know all of these different types of businesses across the entire United States. I'm going to write the template for the email that I want you to send out, and then I want you to send them out. So like my involvement in that was like 7 minutes, So exactly. And so using that as a great tool. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because I probably know the answer to this, but do you feel like, and how, let's say, first of all, do you feel this is true? And also, how is it true for you having less of an emotional connection to the businesses that you start? How does that impact your ability to be successful? Because I mean, I'm assuming that it does, right? Because one of the things we see in the detailing industry, and specifically, I'm an artist, I'm a perfectionist, all these different things, because they're so emotionally invested into the actual process of detailing that they can't separate out the business part of it.
And it does impact the business in a major way, I would say, 100%. And I do think that my emotional detachment from the businesses that I start helps a lot. The part that I think a lot of people need to realize is most of us have children, and if not, we have a spouse or you have someone in your life that you love. That is your emotional attachment in the world, right? And the business is just a tool. For me, it's a tool to get more tools. Tools being money primarily, and like I'm not emotionally attached to money either. It's just a tool to get things done. And so I look at the business as the same way. And so I want to make sure that those tools are always operating as best as they can, without the emotion, because what I see happens most times, and right now I see it with my techs, but I also see it with people in our industry that are more attached to their business, especially solopreneurs, is that something happens, like a negative review, for example, that almost wipes them out for days. Yeah. And it's like you spend so much time, what should I reply? Did I go too hard? Did I this, that? And also on top of that is that the time that you're stewing about that, you're actually not performing your best for the other customers. Right. So it can kind of just fester and lead to more things. So little things like that, or, I had a no-show, customer canceled on me. Can you believe it? And they post it in groups and they talk about it. And I'm like, how much time are you spending on this? Yeah. That to me is, and I look at those things too. And I love when my business stumbles. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it, because that's an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and do better. And so I tell you, we've made more lifetime customers out of negative reviews than we have out of somebody that just says 5 stars, great service. Maybe we don't ever see that person again. Right. But if they had a bad experience, it's how we deal with it afterwards. So I get amped up. I'm like, let's go. I'm on the phone right away. And I'm like, hey, look, Cindy, I understand you came in and you felt, your windows and your mirrors just weren't handled right. Well, I tell you what, that saddens me to my core that my staff would overlook something like that. I tell you what, I want you to come there at your earliest convenience. If it's tomorrow morning, fine. We'll see you tomorrow morning. But I tell you what, we want to make this right. And I'm personally going to make sure that my guys look that over with you when you're there. We want you to be happy, okay? Yeah. Leave the review as it is, but if you feel satisfied once we're done and we fix everything up for you and we'll give you some little bonuses or something, then give an honest feedback afterwards. Those customers, once we make them happy, because obviously they're going to be, well, I'll come back, They come in, they give us a shot, they go back. That review alone does so much for our business. And I didn't have to go on Facebook and ask other detailers what they think I should do or anything like
Yeah.
that. I just make a decision and do it, and that's where not being emotionally attached helps a lot, I think. Because even OrbisX, there's any software. Sometimes there's bugs or something like that we launch a new feature and someone will say, oh, this isn't working, da, da, da. And it's, sometimes they'll say something like, oh, the whole thing's just broken, and I was training and it's like, well, it's actually not, it's just that one thing or something like that. And then I was, training support staff now, and they were like, oh, it just angers me when someone says something like that. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't, like, why are you more attached to this than I am? I work with them and say, don't worry, people will just, they're going to have their opinions, and maybe they were going through something else at that time, and it's just a situation that needs to be dealt with. That's all. But definitely I can say that the reason my companies have been successful is because of that. And I don't think I've ever been emotionally attached to a company, as I'm thinking about. My wife, she gets attached to them. There was a time I almost sold my marketing agency, and she was not happy. She was like, no, that thing was there when we, first had our babies and this and that. And I was like, oh my God. For me, I don't care. Like, if there's a buy, everything's for sale. But the compromise was, okay, we'll just drop the parts that I hate. So the whole effort list, everything. So even the effort clients, drop them all. So I realized that 80-20, like 80% of your 20% of your clients give 80% of the headache or whatever it is. It's like, okay, I looked at the list and I said, okay, we're only dealing with companies that make $5 million a year or more. That's it. And then that's what we did. And so I tell you, since that change, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that make less than that. What I'm saying is that what I noticed from our clients was that, that was a deciding factor.
I mean, because, different people handle it differently in different size companies, and having that emotional detachment to say, first of all, let me just say, when you fire an a-hole client, it's a very satisfying activity. I've had to do that multiple times, web development and different things. And it's funny because I always talk about this continuum, right? Like you want to be an a-hole. If you're going to act that way, there's this, you have to be able to pay an extreme a-hole tax.
Yes.
But the continuum goes where the tax is not enough to overcome you as a person. I'm sorry. So we're gonna have to separate from that. But that emotional detachment is very interesting, because I think in detailing especially, it's something to where they actually are attached to every single job. And that's why when a customer pays for, just your basic correction, they're spending 3 days doing the correction on it, because they're emotionally invested in the outcome. I'm emotionally invested on whether or not the customer's happy and if the check clears. Those are the two things I've invested in.
Well, yeah, because most times I find that, someone's spending 3 days on the vehicle, the customer definitely in most cases isn't even going to notice what you're noticing, and isn't going to. And they're like, I'd rather just have the car back in a day and a half, and it's going to be, okay for me. It's not okay for you, but it's okay for me.
Right.
That's what the customer is saying in their head, and I think that it is kind of in the artist realm, in that regard. And that's where my mother, she's an artist. She's done like 5,000 paintings, and she definitely, gets that way when I see it with her clients, and they'll, they do a portrait of something, and 9 times out of 10, she does an amazing job. And then occasionally, one of the relatives maybe looks a little funny in the painting and they get really upset. And then my mom takes it personally, and so on and so forth. And so I've had to, coach her a little bit on, managing her emotions. And it's definitely something that I think a lot of people see the art side of it. Whereas like us at our shop, I nip that in the bud right away with all my staff. And we do this thing, we call it the 3 wishes. And so we say, every customer comes in, we say, okay, imagine I'm a genie. And for today and today only, I give you 3 wishes for your vehicle. 3. That's it. No more. And you can't wish for more wishes. It's simple. We all know this. And so we say, what are the 3 things that you wish you could fix on your vehicle right now? Oh, well, there's a stain in the back seat. My kids, they melted crayons or whatever it is. They tell us the 3 things, and we say, okay, that's what we're going to focus on. But that's going to make you really happy. And then with any remaining time, we're going to focus on the rest of the vehicle as well. And by doing that, we've now understood what the expectations are from the customer. And that does 2 things. One, it helps because the customer we'll have their needs met because we're going to do that and exceed it, but also for our staff so that they don't sit there, thinking they're going to win a trophy or something. It's not that serious, it's a business. And so they focus more when we do that kind of a process. And there's nothing wrong with, if you're a solopreneur, do the same practice, and you're just teaching yourself, okay, I need to do this for the customer because that's all they want, and then stop. And then maybe do a little extra if time permits, but stop. You don't need to, make this. You're not rebuilding the whole car here.
Yeah, right. Which sometimes it seems like that they want to. So that's definitely not a good way to go. Yeah, that. And I think honestly, when we go back to what we talked about at the beginning, I think that emotional detachment is something that is part of the definition of being a true entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I have different companies, and one, I may be more emotionally attached to one than I am to the other, and more emotionally invested. But at the end of the day, it's like, if somebody comes in and offers me X number of dollars for this company, I will. Where do I sign the contract? Right? Like here's all my passwords. Here's how you get my social media for that particular business. Take it.
Exactly. Here's my shirt.
Yeah, that's right, dude. I'll leave here naked in a pair of Chucks. And you can these are my limited edition Chucks, so I have to keep those. But everything else you're welcome to have. But
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, OrbisX is not something I'm all that familiar with, and maybe other people aren't. Can you just walk through kind of like the unique selling proposition, or what it offers? Just because I don't want to miss that. I think it's something that because there's lots of software out there, different things, and we're partners with some, and but it's something I think that I like other people to understand what's out there and what's available.
For sure. Absolutely, yeah, and great question, because there are some people that don't know, so it does help. So essentially, it's business management software, just like other software that's out there. And the one thing that's different about it is the approach behind the development, so that it goes beyond the simplistic, data entry type things. But there's two things that make a huge difference. One is the automation and marketing tools, because it really is built for growth. So if you're not looking to grow, this probably isn't a good fit. I mean, it'll work well in terms of you can put in all your customers and make appointments, and you have a booking form and all those wonderful things. But really, the power comes when you harness the marketing tools. So we have things in there like you can run contests, for example, and then we do it in a really cool way that we actually own a semi-patent on, which is pretty cool. But essentially, customers enter to win something, and then it sends out a big email blast to all the people that entered. And instead of just saying, sorry you didn't win, it sends them a second chance offer. So when they open it up, so it does things like that automatically for you. You set it up once, but then it also has artificial intelligence built in to do your marketing as well. So it'll reach out to past customers automatically. And the big unique part of it is that I come from a severe business background, big time. And so seeing processes that work, things that make sense, and understanding the sales cycle and human psychology of it, even to the point that I studied the stock market to understand human psychology from that perspective as well, the emotions people go through, the highs, the lows, because it's all part of the sales process and the impulses that people have. So that is essentially injected and infused inside. So this is kind of like a CRM that grew up next to a power plant, and then the power plant exploded.
It's on 3 Mile Island.
Exactly. And it's become this mutant sales monster for your business. And so all the typical things you'd expect to see in there are there: estimates, invoices, appointments, everything that you would normally expect to see in a CRM. It's all there, as well as payment providers, Stripe, Square, yada, yada. It's the extras that are in there. Like even the fact that we're tapped in with all the airports, so we get all the weather related notices for mobile guys. So it'll let you know, like if there's an impending hurricane or something like that, it'll reach out automatically to your customers and reschedule, or tell them like, hey, there's a hurricane coming, take cover. Things like that.
That's dope. That's awesome.
Thanks. So there's a lot of these weird little intricacies that are in there, but they're things you don't have to set up. They're things you don't have to think about. It just happens. And that was done because I come from this business background of, including running my shop. That was a, trial project that's turned into a, full-fledged 7-figure business. But it's also one that I've been able to walk away from completely because of OrbisX.
Nice.
And we've accomplished some pretty good milestones too, like 1,200 plus 5-star reviews, which, as you know, for detailing shops to get, even 100, 150
Yeah.
reviews, people are like, woo, and we're at
Right.
100 plus, so things like that. It's definitely been the backbone of our success for the business. And it's just essentially everything that myself and my team and my other companies have learned over the years, injected into a software application, and it's continuously developing every day as well. So
That's awesome. I love the gamification. We use gamification
oh,
on our
so good.
product side. It's funny because I don't, we have this like the little wheel thing that you spin, and
Oh yeah.
and it's funny because on that stuff you set, and this is the industry secret I'll let people in on, but you set the winners and losers and the percentage of which they're able to win. And I learned that, the default setting is like, I'm sorry, you lose, or not a winner this time. And so I actually just make every section a winner,
Beautiful.
even if you lose. And so,
Okay.
so but there is no lose. You're going to get at least some coupon off every time you play. So that gamification thing is really cool. The AI thing is really cool, and be able to utilize your business background and sales background in order to help that. One of the things we get at Detailers Roadmap on occasion is I'm getting too many leads. I'm getting too many. I can't keep up with all the qualified leads I'm like, yeah, darn, that's such a huge problem to have. Maybe you should hire somebody. So I'm sure you guys must get that too. I would guess maybe people are, having a hard time managing. Does it create kind of this urgency?
It does, yeah. So the good thing is that with the AI, it does a good job of understanding your calendar and the limitations. So like one really cool thing it does, and this was to solve a problem I had at my own shop, was, our company grew so big, we ended up having 6,000 clients after a year. And so we were like, holy geez, what do we do? And, the main guy that answers our phones at AutoWorld, that's the name of my shop, his name's Joe. And Joe wasn't able to call, 6,000 clients.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, do you want to come back in for an appointment and stuff like that? He just wasn't able to do it. So we built our own artificial intelligence into the system. And so we're not relying on, ChatGPT or anything like that. And it'll actually look at your profile and it'll say, oh, hey, Kevin, you like to come in on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. So it'll look ahead 3 weeks and it'll find an opening. And it says, oh, there's an opening at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's Kevin's preferred time slot. So it'll reach out to you and it'll say, hey, nice. Kev, we got a spot open for you, buddy. And then it'll book you in. So the good thing is it kind of just does the bookings automatically for them. So they don't even have to, it's not like, oh, I got too many leads, I don't have time to follow up on them. It's just, oh, we got another booking. So it's kind of a great thing. But through that, a lot of people send me stuff. It just says thank yous, which is crazy. I have this, like one guy, he sent me this.
Really? That's awesome.
I know, right? So they send me like all these crazy things. They're just like, thank you. Like I get messages, letters, and they're like, OrbisX literally transformed my business. I was going to go out of business. And they're like, it's been amazing. So we had a lot of like feel good stories like that, which is nice. But then, but definitely there's some that have said, like, hey, I'm getting too many bookings. How do we slow down the throttle here? And my solution is always the same. Don't.
Yeah, don't.
Don't. Just lean into it, man. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to do. And so I bring up the story of the bison, so the bison, their fur and everything like that, they actually turn and face the storm. So if there's a snowstorm coming, something like that, they turn and they face it, while all the other animals, turn around and they're running. But they know that if they do that, they're not going to outrun the storm. They know that if they turn the way that their furs and stuff, they're just going to die. And so they turn, they face the storm, and they're built for it. So you're built for it, man. You can handle. It's amazing what a human being can handle, especially when you love what you do. So if you love what you do, lean into it. Find some virtual assistants, find some people to help you out, and just close those deals.
Nice. Well, I mean, dude, you did the outro right there, man. That was awesome. That's. I mean, I don't think there's any better place to wrap up than that. I mean, and this has been an absolute blast. I haven't laughed on one of these as much in a long time. So I really appreciate that. So if people want to learn more about you and what you do and get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So two things. One is if you want to learn more about me, you can go to ShawnGervais.com. shoot me an email there, and you can see a list of my companies and a quick little bio thing. But then also, if you want to learn more about OrbisX or sign up, go to orbisx.com. And, if you shoot me an email, I'll give you an extended trial too.
There you go.
On the house from Detailer's Roadmap.
Yes. Special deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, to give you guys a shout out, so I was talking with Chris earlier, and we added a new feature for you guys. So we have the ability to make custom website forms that you guys can plunk right into your websites at Detailer's Roadmap. And as people start to fill out the form, if they don't hit submit, it'll save that lead in the back end in your OrbisX CRM. So even if
it's like then you get into the abandoned cart sequence kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
That's
you got
awesome.
it, man. So, And that was put in place because of Detailer's Roadmap, so you guys can thank them. And if you're not with Detailer's Roadmap, be sure to check them out as well. Absolutely. Look, I'm doing the outro.
Hey, dude, thanks, man. I don't, I'll just leave. Chris will be sending you my consulting check this month, but no, that's perfect. I was going to bring that up too, and so that's amazing. It literally just plugs right in. There's, if you have OrbisX, it's basically a plug and play. So
exactly one line of code. Boom.
Yeah, get that, which is the best kind. So
exactly.
All right, Shawn. Well, thanks so much, man. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you. I'll see you at SEMA in a few weeks, probably, won't I?
For sure. You got it, brother.
All right, cool.
All right, Kevin. Good to see you. All right, cheers.
Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.